Welcome to Transform Now, the podcast brought to you by robotic process automation pioneer SS&C Blue Prism. Digital transformation has the potential to reshape the way companies service their customers, engage their employees, and manage their operations. Whether you're looking to develop strategies, tactics, or best practices to positively impact the future of work, or you're curious to see how other companies have successfully navigated their digital transformation programs, then this podcast is for you. We're here to help you transform now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brad Hairston with SS&C Blue Prism. Welcome to the Transform Now podcast. Today, I am excited to have as my guest Andrew Singer, expert associate partner in technology strategy and enterprise architecture at Bain Company. I'm going to be talking with Andrew about trends shaping the future of enterprise technology, which is the subject of a recent white paper that Andrew co-authored. Welcome, Andrew. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself before we get started.
Hello, Brad. Thanks for having me on. Andrew Singer, associate expert partner here at Bain. Over 20 years industry experience, leading architectures, strategy, helping clients modernize and make technology decisions for the future. Recently, I co-authored this amazing paper that we wrote here about 6 trends shaping the future of enterprise technology. So we're really happy to be here today to talk to you about those.
Excellent. Well, it's great to have you here. I really appreciate you being on with me. I should mention Andrew is in Sydney, whereas I'm in Dallas. So we're quite a distance apart and on different days of the week, as you would expect. Andrew, the white paper that you and some colleagues at Bain published earlier this year was titled 6 Trends Shaping the Future of Enterprise Technology. Can you explain the context of this white paper and the research that Bain conducted as a part of it?
Yeah, sure, Brad. So the research for this paper was a culmination of us, occasionally pausing and reflecting on the state of technology across all of our clients. About 1,000 different enterprise technology cases we used as input into this, as well as a range of sort of quantitative research, things such as our executive surveys and our sort of tipping point analysis. So a combination of qualitative, quantitative sort of research culminated in this paper.
Okay. What did you determine to be the correlation between a company's performance and its prioritization of technology over the past several years?
Companies that prioritize technology, they enjoy a lot of benefits, whether it be customer experience, efficiencies, attracting, retaining talented staff, particularly in the technology space, a lot of these sort of benefits. But when you look at the sort of tangible financials, we had a look at a range of industries such as banking, consumer products. We could actually see a correlation between those that are more sort of tech leading, prioritizing investments in tech. You'd see the increase in the shareholder return year on year. You'd see the return on shareholder return on equity from a shareholding point of view as well. So amazing sort of CAGRs of 14% differences there within any one industry. So I think the correlation is there around financial performance, as well as the performance that companies tend to measure their businesses on, how well they're serving their customers, how they're growing market share, et cetera. So a whole range of correlations there.
Interesting. Well, let's dive into the 6 trends that you identified as part of the paper. Take us through each one. Give us kind of a summary of each point, if you would, and then I may ask you some questions along the way, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's get into it. Well, the first big trend that we see across the board is what we're calling interaction explosion. So this is the move from typically just focused on mobile and digital to actually a multiverse of digital interactions. So a whole range of different touch points, modes of interacting with customers, whether it's through proliferation of devices, mobile wearable devices, whether it's agents, voice or chat or other ways of sort of interacting, communicating, whether it's through ecosystems, so customers or staff using other platforms to access your goods and services, or is it through IoT and more sort of device interaction? A really exciting aspect of this one is actually the use of more sort of digital agents to drive certain conversations, certain transactions, certain pieces of information as well. So it's, in some regard, it's becoming less about the individual customer, the human, but dealing with their agent. So one aspect of this trend is that sort of agent to agent growth there.
So a follow-up question for you on this. When you describe that, it makes me think about conversational AI. There's seems to be an increasing number of conversational AI technologies in the market. What do you think is the importance of companies leveraging conversational AI going forward? Is that a part of this whole space you call interaction explosion?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we already see evidence of huge investments in certain industries in the conversational AI space. So as the technologies are becoming much more capable, we've spoken about conversational AI for 10, 15 years or something, but at the moment now it's really hitting this sort of inflection point where the quality of experience is there and the ability to actually authenticate and do some more meaningful sort of transactions is there. So I think it's going to be hugely important. It's not necessarily going to be the primary channel, but it's going to be so evident that if you're a company in your industry and you don't offer a decent conversational style experience, chat or voice, it'll be highly apparent to your customer base. Customers will get used to this in other sectors, as we're already seeing that. So it's not about just competing with your direct peers in the industry. It's about competing with other conversational experiences. So I think it's going to be hugely important. When you think of the future, augmented reality, virtual reality space as well, this could also benefit from sort of a more unstructured or less structured way of communicating and engaging in systems and bots and agents of that nature. So it also prepare companies for that future as well.
Okay. I recently heard the term cobot for the first time, which I believe stands for collaborative bot. So a sort of a digital agent that's helping you or advising, like a contact center agent. So that sounds like it's in this space as well.
Cobot, whisper bot is another term there. Or,
whisper bot, okay.
Omnipresent, assisting assisting the conversation, like the conversation we're having right now.
Right.
Listeners are sort of listening to, in the future, yes, there could be absolutely this sort of additional presence that will help all of us involved.
Yeah, I think I could use a couple hundred cobots myself. Let's move on to trend number 2.
Yeah, so trend number 2 is sort of going down a layer of the stack. So the first is about the interaction. This next one is about connected intelligence. So yes, the use of AI, but most importantly, improving the extent to which it's connected, both to data, but also to process and that interaction. So this one is about shifting away from big data models and AI is just done somewhere else and consumed very sort of almost transactionally to actually embedding these agents. So having AI throughout the architecture, throughout all of the components and having that appropriately connected and used. So this trend we see, there's a whole range of factors to it, but it's the hyper-personalization is a key thing. So ensuring that all of your processes and all of the capabilities within your organization can achieve that hyper-personalization. The other super interesting concept that we see in the future here is the use of digital twins. So digital representations of customers or things or businesses or assets, but having this representation where you can simulate. So any capability in the architecture can then simulate what it's about to do or what it could do, or so having a more meaningful real-time twin is at the center of this. And then having processes that you can also adapt. So this connected intelligence is, I think, a very important layer of the future architecture that we're seeing traction and heavy investment. In fact, this is in some industries, this is the battleground at the moment. It's how do you achieve this connected intelligence within your architecture?
Right. It would seem that AI is going to be embedded in everything within the enterprise. A question there that comes to mind is, what's going to change the current state of companies utilizing or piloting AI? It seems like a lot of companies are kind of stuck in pilot phase and they just can't get out of their own way to take AI solutions and really scale them. So to reach this mode of fully connected intelligence, what's going to enable companies to finally get past this?
There's a few things that I've seen, I guess, leaders in the space have, characteristics that sort of enable them to do this. Probably the biggest one is like a data-driven culture is how we describe it. But the awareness, the knowledge, the willingness to use data and even invest in these models upfront, have it as part of the design, like a business episode, an interaction, a use case, all of this gets designed and implemented. So if it's not considered early upfront, then it's just not going to happen. So we've got to encourage a culture where people are aware of what is possible and have that baked into the design early. You can't just bolt this stuff on later. You can, but it's more effective, obviously, to consider upfront. The second one is reducing the barrier of actually sort of implementing these types of solutions. So the democratization of AI, auto ML, bringing the bar down. I mean, for many years, it has required data science teams, PhDs, very sort of rare resource. So you couldn't really proliferate the number of models. But if we can bring the bar down, make it easier with sort of analyst-friendly tools to develop, and we have the culture to bring it in, we could achieve much more connectedness and use of AI throughout all the processes.
Fair enough. Okay, let's move on to trend number 3.
Now, trend number 3 is what we've termed distributed meaning. So this trend is about the data itself, driving insight information from that data, moving away from the notion of the data lake holds all, the murky data lake without the clarity, to something that's much more open and more accessible, and having a capability that moves the data wherever it needs to be, or accessing the data from wherever it is, and breaking down the boundary between internal and external data sources. So leveraging and providing or consuming data across the enterprise boundary. So this one here is about a whole range of other sub-concepts, the use of these advanced data management tools, data marketplaces, distributed ledger technology. So absolutely the use, particularly with like common ID schemes and things like this, where it's across industry, that is part of this distributed meaning. And then the convergence of your traditional data warehousing and data lakes into the sort of data product design, where you design a product that can then be sort of used across an enterprise with an intelligent data profile and mesh, where you can access those data sets. You can discover easily what these data sets are. You can provide them easily, but it's providing that ability to move that data around and allow, I guess, just greater leverage of the information asset that companies have got or can get access to.
And moving enterprise analytics beyond company walls is exciting, but it's also sometimes kind of a daunting concept, because you think about the intersection of digital assets and data privacy and data integrity and areas like that. A question for you on this, Andrew. Are BI and analytics leaders in companies today equipped to handle this broadening landscape, or do you think it's going to require a new type of role?
Good question. With this one, I take sort of a glass half full sort of position on it. So I see it as probably an evolution of the role of BI analytics leaders. I mean, for years, they have been part of consuming external data sets and modernizing the way this all takes place. So it is sort of that natural evolution. There are those topics you mentioned, like such as particularly the privacy, the ethical use of data, ethical AI. There's these different sort of disciplines that probably call for additional leadership roles.
Right.
And I think it'll be a case by case around organizations, whether that becomes more of a business role, a risk role, more of a CDO office type role. I think we'll see different operating models for that. But certainly the need to do it is there. The appetite for doing it is there. And the technology tooling is also following suit. All those three sort of elements will need to come together to achieve this.
Very good. Let's move on to trend number 4.
Okay. Now, trend 4 is what we call limitless modularity. So this is really looking at the sort of application layer and how that is changing. The key observation and the key change there is about the decentralization, decomposition of monolithic applications into sort of smaller componentized services. So the whole move towards microservices, APIs, and composing solutions. So rather than traditional COTS-based solution for a particular domain, it's actually more of an ecosystem that you're looking to sort of implement and compose it full of best of breed components, potentially software as a service components, maybe some components you build. So it's having this incredible level of modularity in the architecture. The other aspect is about how the cloud itself is changing. So the use of functions, serverless sort of technologies, the use of managed open source. So rather than you implementing your Kafka, for instance, you have a third-party company implement, manage, run that for you, take care of some of the more sophisticated deployment options, regional sort of deployments and multi-cloud type architectures. So all of these things just allow companies to move much quicker and compose the most amazing platforms to suit just their specific need and sort of outcompete others. So it's becoming limitless. Like, this is really not the concern anymore. There's just so much available there to be selected and implemented.
Yeah. In our world of intelligent automation, this makes me think about a trend we see, which is our customers looking for more and more software as a service solutions around automation, which our partners build, and then they're pre-built by them. They're hosted by one of the cloud providers. Is that an example of what we're talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's the ability for companies to go out there and source that very specific process automation piece with some additional intelligence, maybe some AI in there, something quite differentiating that they can just plug into their solution.
Yeah.
So absolutely part of the trend. We just believe this will keep on growing. I mean, you almost like see the explosion in software as a service companies out there. It's very rare these days to not have that as an option.
Let's move on to number 5.
Okay, the next one is about the cybersecurity arms race, is how we describe it.
Okay.
So moving away from or beyond just technologies to protect, but having the capabilities in place to be resilient and to have robust controls and to respond automatically to changes in the landscape. So it's about responding to the increased sophistication of the attacks, and now the ability to sort of apply a whole range of sort of new techniques to the architecture that makes it relevant for the new paradigm we're in, this highly modular, composed, heavily cloud-based, externalized sort of architecture. Needs a whole range of these new security design patterns. So things like zero trust architectures, the perimeter, the service edge of the architecture is changing. So there's a whole range of software as a service and a whole range of different perimeters out there. So the whole hard shell approach is sort of a thing of the past, absolutely. And then that heavy use of intelligence now in understanding threats, understanding normal behaviors, and adapting the access control. So, passwordless logins and very secure MFA, and then constant profiling of what is occurring. So you can adjust the security posture based on behavior and location and a whole range of attributes and things like this. So there's a whole range of sophistication improvements in the whole cyber layer of the architecture that major clients are sort of looking at investing in, and to complement the rest of the architecture.
Now, Andrew, this would seem to be an area where companies have no choice but to embrace AI, because they're going to have to get ahead of all types of attacks, even ones that haven't been developed yet. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's only so much your controls can do. Ultimately, it will come down to that. Is this behavior unusual? Has that account been taken? So whatever attack has been sort of played out and has sort of obfuscated the control or got through the controls that you've got, AI is one of these critical sort of almost like last defenses, or very, very difficult to beat if you've got that intelligence about what behaviors you can expect. So I think AI is probably where the name of the game at the moment in the cyberspace. Automating response, automating, helping the cyber teams actually become more efficient themselves. Like, as things become, the volume of signals have just gone up so much, you almost need AI techniques just to make sense and to filter out the false positives.
Yeah.
But very important. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Our final trend, number 6.
Yes. Now, this one is an exciting trend, which we've called perpetual motion. So it's the view that companies will be in this perpetual motion. They'll never stop. There will always be change, and that's just going to sort of increase in speed. So to achieve this, we need to remove the friction. We need to have the tooling to sort of make the whole process of ideating, designing, delivering, implementing, running change just sort of much broader, much more capable. So moving beyond DevOps into sort of automate the whole business engineering. So as the business changes, as the products change, as the experiences change, it's really just an extension of Agile, but it's the technology and the integration of that technology to assist this. So a whole range of things like all the progressive tooling approaches, the automated coding, self-healing, testing. We have a notion of it in sort of enterprise control plane. So the ability for propagation of rules and policies and whatever settings we're adjusting at any time. Any part of a business may change their compliance settings or their pricing or what they're promoting right now. It's a whole range of things that could then be applied. And then integrating this with digital work management. So the tooling that helps people actually prioritize, work through, collaborate as a team to deliver this is all critical. So we see all of this sort of stuff coming together technically and with the business process and people and the ecosystem of people involved, not just the company, but all of their partners and SIs, creatives, etc. But all of this coming together so you can get in this perpetual motion and sort of outcompete on that sort of speed and quality of outcome.
You mentioned self-healing. We're adding capabilities like that, as well as self-programming, self-orchestrating. It's all about making the digital workforce capability more and more autonomous. So yeah, it rings true within our world as well, everything you just described. So very interesting. Okay. Well, thank you for going through all those. Those are fascinating. I'm just going to read them off just as a reminder. And then I'm going to ask you a question here. So interaction explosion, connected intelligence, distributed meaning, limitless modularity, cybersecurity, arms race, and perpetual motion. So Andrew, how would you describe or sum up at a high level the way that enterprise technology is evolving? Because all these trends that you just went through, they're all happening, they're occurring simultaneously.
If I was to sum it up in sort of 3 or 4 dot points, I mean, it is becoming much more modular and open. Like that's key. The boundaries are open, modular. It's becoming much more intelligent.
Okay.
So it's not just about data and transactions. It's about having an intelligence to predict, respond, to know, to personalize. That's a critical element. More connected. The whole thing is more connected to integration, movement of events, movement of data, knowledge. All of that is critical. Faster. So the ability to change because it's possible now to change fast. Leaders in the industries will change fast. Absolutely. So that's definitely something that all clients need to be on top of. And lastly, just more control. So yes, the whole enterprise technology environments are getting more complex. Businesses are becoming more technology businesses. So much of the footprint will be in the actual technology base. We'll see the ability to control much higher. So the ability for leaders, management, and others to sort of make actions and see that result immediately, I think will go up as well.
That's a really good summary. I could have never done that across all those things together. So thank you for that. So one final question for you. If I'm a CIO or a CDO and I'm reading your white paper, reading through these trends, honestly, my head would start to spin as I try to think about, okay, where do I focus my attention and my energy in the coming years? I've got a limited budget to work with, and I've got the business screaming at me to fix all these enterprise systems, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you guys at Bain advise leaders to approach this in a strategic way?
Yeah, good question. Let me try and summarize that at sort of a high level. My answer, I'd say there's 3 things that really need to be done here. I mean, the first one is leaders need to have a future state vision for technology itself. So that needs to be established, number one. We'll go into some more details on that. Okay. The second one is create the right environment for success. And there's a range of things that they'll need to do there. And then the third is focus on the execution. Be very clear about the parameters of that execution. So we just bring some of that to life. I mean, enabling the future state vision for technology. First of all, it's got to enable the business agenda. So it's not about just picking out a whole bunch of trends and being in the media saying, oh, look how great we are. We've got these trends running. We've got this particular latest tech. That's just vanity type investment. It's really got to be enabling that business agenda. So align with that strategy where the business is going to compete. Companies have to work out how are the trends going to impact their industry. So what are the roots of those impacts and how they're going to respond to those. So taking a good look inwards, also outwards at competitors, looking at other industries, but having a good view of where those impacts actually are. And then with this one, having a strong focus on the architecture renewal itself, modernizing the architecture to take advantage of a whole range of these sort of developments. So it's not just about implementing one particular thing, but it's also the architecture around it so that can evolve. So once you've got that vision for technology, you've got a very good sort of basis. So that's what the first ingredient. Creating the right environment for success is about setting that ambition. So for the leaders to determine, is there going to be a fundamental change? We're going to take here or incremental changes. Because there can be different approaches depending on starting position. And you mentioned the investment side of it. The investment posture is also critical here. Like, is this going to be a self-funded modernization, or is it going to be some sort of big surge investment? Is it going to be persistent? If it's a big surge investment, we could be looking at capital raising and things like this, like really major sort of impacts for a period of years so that the business can modernize and make a fundamental change. It's all going to be connected. Then it's the execution of the leadership model that needs to get right. And then re-engineering the business to take advantage of technology as well. So the two are combined. It's not just about the tech supporting business. It's about also modernizing the way the business is going to work and transitioning. So creating that right environment for success is sort of those factors. And then there's the execution itself. So having clarity on the rate of change, how quickly is this going to take place? Is this going to be gradual over 5, 6, 7 years, or is it going to be a 2 to 3 year? Having a clear understanding of what it needs to be and then communicating that and getting everybody on board with the rate of change that you're about to go through is critical. And then there's the technology footprint side of it. So is it repair, replace, incremental, or is it massively greenfield? Depending on a company's starting position, you may see the need for heavy greenfield type investment as opposed to sort of incremental modernization of existing components. And then lastly, the delivery model needs to be sort of put in place. And how will this even occur? Is it going to be a change from within situation? For some clients, that works quite well. In others, we call it sort of engine 2. And this is where you might establish the new way of running that part of the business in a separate vehicle, a venture. If you look at banking sector, neobanks is a great example of this. You might trial out your new architecture and scale it and then apply it to the parent at a later point in time. So all that needs to be sort of decided. But once you've got those sort of three areas done, I think your companies will be in a really good position to then take advantage of technology here to outcompete the peers.
Very, very good. Thank you for taking me through that. And Andrew, we've reached the end. So I just want to thank you for being on with me today and walking me through the 6 trends. I thought the white paper was really interesting when I read it, and hearing you talk me through it was even more interesting. So thank you very much. I learned a lot. I think our listeners will as well. So thanks again. Appreciate you being here, and I wish you the best.
Absolute pleasure, Brad. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Transform Now. For more insightful discussions on digital transformation and more, check out our podcast channel where you'll find all of our previous episodes. And to make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player. And if you like what you've heard, please leave us a review. For more information about digital transformation and the future of work, check out blueprism.com to learn how SS&C Blue Prism's digital workforce is enabling enterprise transformation now.